Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly settle down. Distinguished speaker for this evening has already arrived. I'm just starting 2-3 minutes before time. Why I did this is so many mails are coming you. Some of you miss it in your inbox. We are doing some outstanding event. Not to be missed event. One is happening on 13th. Emotional triangle, the three elements of emotional. We are doing at Tanishq, Ananaga. Then we have on the read and grow. This time the subject chosen is the compound effect of jumpstart your income, your life, your success, and by team. Then on 23rd December, we have navigating global economic turbulence, opportunities in India. We are having at Andhra Chamber of Commerce. Then on 27th, lean leadership at Institute of Foundryman is happening again in Ananaga. Then on MMA, Great Institute of Management Conclave, it's very, very interesting conclave. Leveraging low cost, high impact innovation, the superior operational efficiency. It's got Karakuri Kaizen actually, and we are going to showcase how the manufacturers can adopt some of the brilliant innovations and really improve their productivity. Then we also have the launch and discussion on the book, The Groundbreaker, Entrepreneurship, the American Dream is from Kanwal Ricky. You know, Kanwal Ricky is the founder of TAI. This we are doing jointly with TAI. Then on 19th of January, we got Devina Mehra, the talk from Lucknow to Wall Street, leadership lessons from building a global research founder. And you know, Devina is a gold medalist from IIM Ahmedabad and a great achiever. Then we have on 30th, by Murudala Ramesh. 2nd Feb, we have Vijay Govindarajan. Vijay Govindarajan, you know, is a distinguished professor of management and Tuck University is going to be talking about innovation. We'll be sharing with you the details very soon. Then we also have a talk by Vidya Shankar Chakravarti. Again, interesting very subject, that is discussion on help. Can you hear us? Navigating societal false lines is all about children. Then we have our annual flagship event, 11th of Feb. So this quickly tell you in brief what's happening in MMA. And people, I think, gentlemen, you move to this side, a couple of seats here. In case you're not finding seats here, we have made arrangement live telecast in the next room. You can sit comfortably and watch from there too. Okay, otherwise a lot of seats are available. People are there. Now, coming to today's event, we are always proud and privileged to host this year on year. This is 7th in edition, and that is the birth anniversary of Mr. R.K. Swamy. We are doing it at the 7th edition. R.K. Swamy Endowment Memorial Lecture. 7th R.K. Swamy Memorial Lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome on stage distinguished speaker for this evening. And I think I will walk miles to listen to him. Actually, I listen to him many times and we never get, you always feel sad. Why is he completing, finishing the talk? He should continue for some more time. That is the reputation what this gentleman has gone. You're going to listen to him a short while from now. Put your hand together to welcome the chief guest for this evening, Mr. Amitabh Kant, governance reformer, public policy, change agent, former India thing. I also request other delegates to please take their place on dais. Mr. Swamy, Shekhar, Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan and Mr. Salim. Comes. Welcome, sir. Yes, the format of the program is after I request Mr. President MMA to deliver the formal welcome address. Then introductory remarks will be delivered by Mr. Shekhar Swamy. And thereafter, the chief guest address on the theme, the road $30+ trillion economy by 2047. Yes, kindly agreed to take some questions afterwards. But the questions are only through Mentimeter. There is no mics handed over. You have a Mentimeter, you can scan the QR code and send your questions to us, and we'll, if anything relevant to the theme today, the questions will be responded. It will be placed before the thing. Please, thank you for your understanding. Then Mr. Swamy will moderate the Q&A. He is ultimate boss for deciding which question can be answered, not. Then we request the President of the Advertisement Council of India, Chennai, to deliver the formal vote of thanks. Now I request Mr. Lakshmi Narayan Duraswamy, he is the President of Madras Management Association. He is also the Managing Director of Sundaram Home Finance, to deliver the formal welcome address. Mr. Lakshmi.
Thank you, Group Captain. Good evening, all of you. It's indeed a very special privilege to deliver this formal welcome address at the 7th R.K. Swamy Memorial Lecture this evening. We are deeply honored to host this annual memorial lecture in memory of late Sri R.K. Swamy, the doyen of Indian advertising profession, whose pioneering spirit continues to inspire us and whose legacy we are committed to carry forward. It's my great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest this evening, Mr. Amitabh Kant, governance reformer and public policy change agent, former India Sherpa to G20 and former CEO Niti Aayog. I also warmly welcome Mr. Srinivasan K. Swamy, Mr. Shekhar Swamy, and Mr. Suraj Salim, President Advertising Club, Madras. This is a proud occasion for all of us at MMA as we recall the enormous contribution of Mr. R.K. Swamy to the growth and evolution of this association, particularly his active involvement, guidance, and support during his tenure as President of MMA during 1972 to 74. If MMA stands today as the largest management association in the country and has been honored as the best management association for 15 consecutive years, a significant share of this credit goes to the vision, ideas, and initiatives of many stalwarts, with Mr. R.K. Swamy foremost among them. MMA today has over 8,000 members across corporates, professionals, academicians, and students, and conducts over 750 programs every year. The scale and impact would not have been possible without the sustained guidance and support of our past presidents, including Mr. Srinivasan K. Swamy, with whom I am privileged to share the dais this evening. It is also fitting to acknowledge that this magnificent MMA Management Center, of which we are all justifiably proud, would not have come without his leadership as the chairman of the fundraising committee. This center stands as the lasting monument of this management fraternity, and we remain deeply grateful for this outstanding contribution. This year's endowment lecture on the road to a $30 trillion economy by 2047 by Mr. Amitabh Kant is a most appropriate tribute to Mr. R.K. Swamy, whose work was significantly influenced Indian advertising, commerce, and economic growth. As India pursues the Viksit Bharat 2047 vision and aspires to become a $30 trillion economy, we face both immense opportunities and complex challenges, sustaining high growth, creating quality jobs, investing in education, digital infrastructure, AI, etc., while ensuring the prosperity is inclusive and broad-based. We keenly look forward to Mr. Kant's insights on these vital issues. I am delighted that this annual endowment lecture in memory of Mr. R.K. Swamy has evolved into a vibrant platform for knowledge sharing, carrying his legacy to the next generation of management professionals. I warmly welcome our past presidents, members of the managing committee, members of MMA, distinguished invitees and guests who are with us here in person and those joining us online. Wish you all a wonderful and an enriching evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshminarayanan. Mr. Shekhar Swamy is the Group CEO of R.K. Swamy Limited and globally recognized expert in marketing, communication, and brand leadership. Rated among the world's top agency innovators, and he brings deep expertise in brand creation, global market, and practical results-driven strategies. I now request Shekhar Swamy to deliver the introductory remarks. Mr. Shekhar Swamy.
எல்லோருக்கும் நமஸ்காரம். சார், உங்களுக்கும் நமஸ்காரம். அமிதாப் ஜி. அமிதாப் காந்த் அவர்களே, நீங்கள் சென்னை வந்து எங்களுடன் இந்த மெமோரியல் லெக்சர் இவெண்டில் பங்கு கொள்வதற்காக மிக்க நன்றி. அதை சொல்லி வருக வருக என்று வர வைக்கிறோம். In Tamil, everything is exaggerated. Varuga, varuga. In case you missed the first varuga, it means welcome. We say it again, varuga. What a delightful opportunity to introduce Sri Amitabh Kant to this audience. If you are expecting me to read out his resume, talk about all the things he has done, well, I'm not going to do that. That he was CEO of Niti Aayog, G20 Sherpa for India, and currently on many corporate boards is well known. Let's take that as read. So I want to make this introduction personal. I came into contact with Mr. Amitabh Kant when he was the G20 Sherpa. The G20 event in New Delhi was on September 9th. Mark the date. A little context I have to give you here. prior to the G20 event, we at RK Swamy had completed 16 films on a topic called Bharat, Mother of Democracy. And this was done in 13 languages. This is now housed in the new Parliament building. That project concluded in May 2023. The G20 event was in early September. Just 3 months prior, we had finished that event. For the G20 event, it was decided that there should be a 25 panel exhibition, each panel in 16 international languages, on this topic called Bharat, Mother of Democracy. And this was obviously for all the international delegates from all over the world. We were called in late July. The event is in September. We were called in late July. That means we had just the month of August to execute this program. For this topic, they unfortunately or fortunately could not go to anyone else because time was very short. Along with this came a request for another little film to be done on the same topic, Bharat, Mother of Democracy. This is a 90-second film, also in all the languages, to go on the G20 mobile app. Now, no event happens in Delhi without a mobile app. Culture Ministry asked us to do this. After the 16 long films, which approximately was about 100 minutes of finished film, you would think that a 90-second version of the same should be pretty simple. Well, that's what we thought. We produced the film. Culture Ministry approved it. Then they quietly told us, go to the G20 Sherpa and get his approval. A formality, they said. हाँ उनको दिखाओ तो वो ऐप में जा रहा है. ठीक है. So I took it to him. The date, I remember, actually I went through our WhatsApp exchanges. The date was September 3rd, 2023. 9th is the event. And I must tell you one more thing. 2 days before the event, they shut down the venue for security reasons. Nobody can access anything. So 4 days before the closing date, he looked at it and promptly asked for some changes. He had something in his mind, which is fair, and he wanted it. So I listened to him. I was tempted to say that the Culture Ministry had approved it, but I held back. Now, one of the things you learn when you work in Delhi is that you don't go and tell a senior IAS officer that some other senior IAS officer has approved it. This is not allowed. It's not in the books. So I held back. He made his comments. I listened. Clock is ticking. So after meeting him, I went downstairs. My 2 colleagues who were always wandering around with me in Delhi were aghast. They kept saying, sir, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's no time. How are we going to get this done in all the languages? Now I called the Culture Ministry. I had to tell them, explain what had happened. After saying something, or rather I'm hearing something which I cannot repeat here, they said that I should deal with the G20 Sherpa as required and simply report back to them. That's it. I lost my cover and I was taking bullets directly. There was no time, so we sat in the lobby of your building, sir. If you were upstairs, and we rewrote the script. I sent it to him, no response. Later that day, I got a message. It was a forward, a WhatsApp forward. A new historian had been brought into the picture, into the project. I won't mention his name. The message forwarded to me by him, and I've got the actual words. Within quotes, I say this. The narrative says, Greeks were visitors to India from over 2,500 years ago, but the evidence that we have is only from 2,400 years ago. Really? 2,400, 2,500? Okay. Then it went on. The blurb says 5th century BCE. It is incorrect. It should be 4th century BCE. Okay? Then it says, Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador to the Mauryan court, is noted to be saying that most of the states adopted the democratic form of government, whereas it should say most of the cities adopted the democratic form of government. So there was hair splitting between states and cities. So, okay. Then there is one more comment. Visual says it is from 8th century BCE, but the evidence is from 6th century BC. I looked at this, I'm sorry, I looked at it and said, what's going on here? 2500 years, 2400 years, 1 century difference. I had to report it to the culture ministry. Again, I heard Galis, this time directed at the historian, who was not visible to us, who had suggested the changes. How do we navigate this? Of course, the work we had done prior to that, 16 films as I told you, had its own set of historians. And they were not agreeing to the dates. So I had one set of historians saying one date, another set of historians saying another date. We are sitting in the middle, and I'm asking, how do these people know if it is 2500 years ago or 2400 years ago? States or cities, this was going nowhere. Somebody had to take the call. Finally, I got a message drafted by the culture ministry, which basically said that these dates have all been vetted by a large team of scholars and historians. They actually said they will take responsibility, which is a big leap forward as a message. So I forwarded it to him. Much later, I got a terse message. Quote, go ahead and finish the film. We heaved a sigh of relief. He said, okay, which we did overnight. I sought, this doesn't stop here, just one more minute. I sought the meeting the very next day so that we could show him the film, September 4th. No reply. It became late in the evening, still no reply. Around 11 p.m., I don't know, Amitabhji, whether you remember or not, I remember it. Around 11 p.m. that night, I got a call and he said, send me the film on WhatsApp, but you go ahead. I trust you and don't wait for me to respond. So we raced to get it done in the 16 languages, delivered it on the 6th, finally got the app delivered off our backs. Now here is the thing, little did I know that the G20 Sherpa was herding the G20 members to agree on a joint communique, an agreement that everyone signs off on. That was the job that he was doing. So that was my competition for the G20 Sherpa's attention. Here he was trying to save the world, and I was chasing him for a 90-second film approval. No context, but you still responded to me at 11 p.m. that night. So, Sherpaji, I don't know if I thanked you enough on that day, so I will say it again. Thank you for giving me the okay at 11 p.m. to get this pesky task done on time. Ladies and gentlemen, Sri Amitabh Kant.
Thank you, Mr. Shekhar. We had a brief introduction by Shekhar, but let me formally introduce Mr. Amitabh Kant. May I have the AV, please.
Mr. Amitabh Kant is a distinguished governance reformer and public policy change agent and former India's Sherpa to the G20 during India's presidency in 2022-23, where he played a pivotal role in shaping the New Delhi Leaders' Declaration. Mr. Amitabh has held several senior leadership positions in the Government of India, including CEO of Niti Aayog, and has been a key architect of transformative initiatives such as Make in India, Startup India, Ease of Doing Business reforms, and the Production Linked Incentive (PLI) scheme. A noted thought leader and author, Mr. Amitabh has also contributed globally through his work with the World Economic Forum and international policy bodies, earning prestigious honors for leadership in governance and reform.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it's my privilege to present to you Mr. Amitabh Kant delivering 7th Memorial Lecture of R.K. Swamy, The Road to 30 Trillion Economy by 2047. Mr. Amitabh.
Great pleasure to be here. Mr. Lakshmi Narayan, Mr. Srinivas Swamy, Mr. Shekhar Swamy, Mr. Suresh Salim, many distinguished people here. Mr. Kumaru was with me till just yesterday in Oman and Saudi Arabia, my own batchmate, Mr. Vivek Harinarayan, many distinguished people who are here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted to be here to deliver the 7th R.K. Swamy lecture. Mr. R.K. Swamy was a great thought leader, a great intellectual, an immensely creative person, and he was an institution builder, but more than anything else, he was a nation builder. So this event is unique in many ways. It brings Mr. R.K. Swamy's vision of ideas. It brings Mr. R.K. Swamy's perspective of creating great institutions, which he did. And it brings his concepts of building a great nation altogether. So this is not merely a lecture or an interaction on taking India towards the road of Viksit Bharat. In many ways, it is a great tribute to an immensely unique person, Mr. R.K. Swamy, who started his career in J. Walter Thompson Advertising Company simply because he knew Gujarati, he knew Tamil, he knew 3 different languages. He was almost started at a very low down in the ladder as a language interpreter. He rose up the J. Walter Thompson Creative Agency and eventually started a branch of J. Walter Thompson in Chennai. At that period of time and at that history, creative work all used to be done out of Calcutta or out of Mumbai. Nobody ever thought of Chennai. Mr. R.K. Swamy came to Chennai and brought the world of creativity, the world of advertising, the world of doing innovative marketing in Chennai. And step by step he rose up and eventually later started his own advertising agency, which became a legendary advertising agency and brought in a multidisciplinary perspective to the world of advertising. So I'm truly honored to be delivering the 7th R.K. Swamy lecture, which is family has, in partnership with the Management Association and in partnership with the Ad Club, has launched this, and I'm greatly honored to be delivering this in his memory. This lecture, I asked them the title and they wanted me to speak on the road to Viksit Bharat. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Mark Twain, an American philosopher, traveler, humorist, who had said at one point of time that India is the cradle of human civilization. It is the mother of history. It is the grandmother of tradition and the great-grandmother of legend, and all instructive material of history to be found in India. When he said this, India had been colonized by the Britishers. He said this around 1860s. And India, when it was colonized by the Britishers in 1700, actually had about close to 30% of the global share of the global GDP. I mean, that's equivalent, that's 2% more than what the United States holds today. United States share of global GDP is 28%. India's share was about 30%. By the time the Britishers left India in 1947, the share of India in global GDP had dwindled down to about 3.5%. So, from being the leading driver of growth, trade, exports, prosperity of the global economy, India had moved to the periphery of the global economy. And then the British Raj was replaced by the license Raj for a long period of time. We saw socialism in India, and every single industrial license was cleared by the government of India. It was only in 1991 that we saw the first wave of liberalization when industrial licensing was done away with, but many hard areas of control by the state still remained. Just about a decade back, many of you would recall that India was a fragile five country. It was termed as a fragile five. From fragile five, India has moved to the top 4 countries of the world, and in another 2 years, we'll overtake Germany to be in the top 3. We are a $4 trillion economy. The Prime Minister's vision is that India should go on to be a $30+ trillion economy by the time it becomes 100 in 2047. So first and foremost, what has India done to move from fragile 5 to the top 4 and become a $4 trillion economy? Because that will give us the road to the future. First and foremost, to my mind, India has made very major structural reforms in its economy. The first of which is that we have one tax across the economy, which is digital, which is goods and services tax, and that tax has led to higher revenues for the government and for the state government, and that GST has been further liberalized, consolidated, improved upon, and a lot of process of digitization has happened in the goods and services tax. So one tax, and many of you would recall prior to that we had long queues of lorries waiting at state borders. All that has been done away with. So goods and services tax is one major reform. The second has been that in India we used to say that India was a country it had socialism with very complex entries, and capitalism, when it moved to capitalism, it had no exit points. And therefore, a company to start was easy, but a company to die out was very complex, and therefore insolvency and bankruptcy code was critical for this country. And bringing in the insolvency and bankruptcy code has actually brought in a huge amount of financial discipline, because many large companies used to borrow and not pay back the financial institutions. And to my mind, insolvency and bankruptcy code has been a very big driver of financial discipline in India's economy. The third has been, for many middle class people like me who used to borrow money, take money to buy houses for their families, never get them through real estate builders. This particular problem was particularly severe in Gurgaon and Noida, etc. The Real Estate Regulation Act was brought in, and the real estate sector has boomed as a consequence of that. It's brought in a huge amount of discipline in the real estate construction sector. The fourth has been that India has brought down the corporate tax rate level, and 3 years back India gave away 1,45,000 crores to its private sector so that its tax regime could be on par with the world's best. And so the corporate tax level was brought really rationalized in many ways. And the fifth, I would say, which was critical, that the government focused on removing a lot of rules, regulation, procedures, paperwork. There was a huge focus on ease of doing business. The government eliminated over 2,000 laws, but it digitized many things and it made things easier and simple. So these were the structural reforms. But the biggest thing to my mind in the economy that happened was that India digitized its economy. Every Indian has a digital identity. 1.5 billion people have a digital identity, and then between 2015 and 2017, we opened 550 million bank accounts. Every bank account was seeded with Aadhaar and your mobile number. When we started this opening of bank account, only 18% of the women in India had a bank account. Today, 90% of the women in India have a bank account. And that led to Indians doing fast payments. We use our mobile to do most of our payments now. We don't go to physical banks. At least I haven't been to a physical bank for 4.5, 5 years. I've not used my checkbook. We use mobile for payments. But then there were many young Indian startups, MobiKwik, Pine Lab, etc., who started providing credit based on your payment history. And then there were another set of startups like Zerodha, Grow Upstock, who took stock market to tier 2, tier 3 cities of India. And there was another set of startups like GoDigit and Acco, who took insurance to tier 2, tier 3 cities and rural areas. So India is the only country which from fast payment to credit to insurance to stock market transaction does everything on the back of mobile within 30 seconds to 1 minute. No other country does that. No other country does that. And the Bank of India's International Settlement in its study said that India achieved in 7 years, what it would have taken India 50 years to achieve normally. 50 years to achieve, it was able to do this in 7 years because it said the leakages in the Indian economy came to an end. You could put money straight into the bank account of the beneficiary without any leakage. And during the COVID period, we could do 2.2 billion COVID vaccination, and over 800 million people could get benefits, whereas in the without leakages, whereas in the United States, American government sent out checks, 22% of the checks came back. They could not identify the right people. Same thing happened in Germany. Here, all vaccination was digital process on the mobile. In America, everything was paperwork. So India technologically leapfrogged, and it built up an alternative model which is today known as the digital public infrastructure. It created the digital identity layer, but on top of that, it allowed private sector to compete with each other. So India is the only country where PhonePe competes with Google Pay, Paytm competes with Amazon Pay, but on top of the digital interest layer. And this is open source, open API, globally interoperable. Open source, open API, globally interoperable. And this model is very different from what the Western world has seen. When you go to Amazon, when you go to Google, when you go to Meta, Facebook, your data is owned by them, and then they use your data for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Whereas in India's case, we have a digital empowerment protection architecture which does not allow memorization of data, and therefore your data is owned by the citizens of India. When you get onto a transaction in India, the data belongs to you and not to the service provider, and that is the basic difference. India created a unique model. India created a unique model which is now being replicated across the world, and the G20 accepted this model for transforming the global south. So many of our IITs, IIMs are now involved in taking this model of open source, digital public infrastructure to the rest of the world. So technological leapfrogging is the biggest thing that has been done. And as a consequence of that, India is able to do all this within 30 seconds to 1 minute. But what has happened is that the cost of acquisition of a customer has fallen. It fell from $30 to less than 15 cents in India. And that is why a company like Reliance Jio could acquire 510 million customers in the period of 9 months, only on the basis of either iris or thumb impression, no paperwork at all. And that is why today India has leapfrogged. So digital transformation is one of the biggest things that's happened. So I gave you the perspective of structural reforms. I gave you the perspective of digital transformation. The third big thing that's happened in India is the focus on infrastructure. So in the last 7-8 years, India has built over 40 million houses for its citizens. 40 million houses, building another 30 million houses. Now, we should try and understand 40 million houses is more than the population of Australia. So, actually, India has built a whole Australia within India. That's the size and scale of what India has done. You know, Indians don't realize this, that this is what India has done. India has provided toilets for its citizens, 130 million toilets with behavioral change. Indians didn't use toilets. Toilets have been provided. Behavioral change has been done through Swachh Bharat. 130 million toilets means more than the population of Germany. That's the size and scale of what India did. It provided piped water connection to 253 million Indians. 253 million Indians means more than the population of Brazil. That's the size and scale of what India did. It built 88,000 in the last 10 years, it's built 88,000 kilometers of roads, expressways and highways. No other country has done this. And therefore, the size of India, what India has done, is just enormous in terms of infrastructure creation, and the outlay on infrastructure in India went up from less than 0.8% of its GDP to 4% of its GDP on infrastructure. So the outlay on infrastructure went up enormously, and that will pay India long-term dividends in terms of its multiplier impact on its economy. So the third story of India is the size and scale of what India has done in terms of infrastructure creation, which is very important to understand. The fourth thing that India has done, and it's not much talked about, but it's very critical, is that India has done it in a green manner. A lot of this has been through sustainable development, because India has built up 256 gigawatt of renewable energy. 256 gigawatt of renewable energy, and brought down the price of renewable energy. India is not you see, if you look at the total greenhouse gas emission in the world, the CO2 emission, India's contribution is 1/10 that of the United States. But yet we took this responsibility that we will drive green growth. In COP21 in Paris, we took that responsibility. We did 256 gigawatt of renewable energy. We brought down the price of renewable energy power from 24 rupees to 2 rupees, roughly about 2 rupees 20 paisa now. We created one grid, no other. We must understand this. Europe doesn't have one grid. United States doesn't have one grid. India has one grid across the country. You produce renewable power produced in Tamil Nadu can go to the western part of India, eastern part of India. Power produced in the Gujarat can go to the eastern part of India because of one grid. And therefore, what India has done in this area has been enormous. And now, this has all happened not because of government. The government brought in policy changes. But this entire drive of renewable energy has been driven by private sector of India. They were able to use the policy changes to bring in private equity, venture fund, and this is a creation of great entrepreneurship by young Indian entrepreneurs who've done this. And therefore, the transformation of India. The second key thing, we must understand what India did. Indian women in rural areas of India, particularly eastern part of India, all used to burn firewood for cooking. Firewood for cooking. India gave LPG connection to 120 million women and said that you move from firewood to LPG gas connection and transform their health. Now, 120 million women were given LPG connection today. So, the size and scale. We went in for electric buses. When I was CEO Niti Aayog, we did a tender for 7,000 electric buses. The cost of electric buses was 12% cheaper than fossil fuel buses. The next tender being done is for 10,000 buses. The Prime Minister said next third tender should be for 30,000 buses. The fourth tender for 100,000 buses. Now, when you do this, you are using the size and scale of India to drive down prices and actually making India the center for manufacturing electric buses across India. And therefore, what India said that it will, many commentators like Bill Gates, etc., said that when you move from fossil fuel to clean energy, you have to pay a premium. You have to pay a premium of 30 to 35%. What India demonstrated is that it can use its size and scale to drive down prices and actually do it not at a premium but at a discount. And therefore, India's ability to become the first country in the world to urbanize and industrialize through a process of decarbonization is very critical. It's critical because when America was urbanizing, American car companies bought over the railway companies and destroyed them so that General Motors cars and Ford cars could sell, and the entire development of America was through highways. Highways, cars plying, and there's a model of sprawling cities. Whereas what Singapore has demonstrated is that you can do better urbanization through compact, dense cities with more green areas. There is better livability with better density. And therefore, you need to do a new model of urbanization which is based on green transport, which is based on walking, cycling, which is based on public transportation, etc. So we'll talk a little more of urbanization a little later, but the transformation of India as a sustainable country for the future is very critical. So these are 4 things which India has done. It's done structural reforms, done digitization, created infrastructure, gone in for green transformation, which many people do not realize. And the 5th, which is the most important to my mind, is it is using technology to pole vault. It'll be impossible for India to grow and prosper at high rates. And one of the reasons why we've lost out in the past is because we've not looked at cutting edge areas of growth. And that is why India launched the artificial intelligence mission. It's supporting 10 young startups to create India's own large language models. Because if you don't create large language models and you keep doing application on on ChatGPT, etc., you will lose your history, your civilization, your culture. You will be colonized for the rest of the world, for the rest of the time in the future. And therefore, it's said we'll support these 10 startups. It's providing computing power to its researchers and students at almost 50% the cost of what Europe and America does, and has opened up government data banks through AI Kosh so that our people can use our data to do cutting edge creative work in AI. Now, the AI race has just begun. It's important to realize that actually Steve Jobs was not the first inventor of computers. Internet was not driven by Google. The disruption was done by somebody else, but they became the driver of growth. And it's very important that as we go along, the second mover has a big advantage. And the second mover must take advantage of this and move ahead. So India is driving the AI mission. India is driving the semiconductor mission, which is now leading to about 10 different companies doing chip manufacturing in India. Many design companies getting into India. We are driving the green hydrogen mission. The green hydrogen mission aims at really using renewable energy because India is climatically blessed. The only other country which is climatically blessed like India is Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia, as we just seen along with Mr. Kumar, that it's flushed with carbon, it's flushed with fossil fuel. So their focus is on fossil fuel, but India is climatically blessed. And if it can produce 256 gigawatt of renewable energy with a target of 500 by 2030, it will use renewable energy to crack water to produce green hydrogen. And its aim is that today green hydrogen is available at $4.50 per kilogram. It should be able to bring the cost of green hydrogen down to $1 per kilogram by 2030. The size and scale of India should be able to bring it down to $1 per kilogram and make India the biggest exporter of green hydrogen and the cheapest producer of ammonia in its liquid form and export to the rest of the world. The world will be wanting green hydrogen and ammonia and moving away from fossil fuel. The challenge for India is whether it can make it commercially viable using its source and technology. And the 4th is that we have push for the quantum computing mission. A lot of work has been done by IIT in Chennai, etc. But quantum computing is another fourth key area of growth for India. So in many of these new cutting edge areas of growth, we've got in AI mission, the semiconductor mission, the quantum computing mission, the green hydrogen mission, all this, and most of them we are supporting through the production linked incentive scheme. So I've given you this perspective of how India moved from the fragile 5 to the top 4 in the last 7-8 years. But the Prime Minister's vision is that from 4 trillion, you move to $30+ trillion economy in the next 22 years. 4 trillion to $30+ trillion, lift every Indian above the poverty line. That's the challenge he's thrown. Now, this means when you move from 4 trillion to $30+ trillion economy, this implies that India's GDP has to grow 9x. Its per capita income has to grow 8x. Its manufacturing has to grow 16x. That's the challenge. 9x, 8x, 16x. Only 3 countries in the world, post-World War II, only 3 countries in the world have been able to do this. Japan post-World War II, Korea between 70s and 90s, and China from 1990 to 2020, scorching paces of growth at 9.2, 9.6 and 10.2% per annum. Year after year of growth. Now India can do this only if it is able to grow at 9% plus for 3 decades or more. That's the challenge for India. 3 decades or more, growth of 9%, 8.5%, 9% year after year, 3 decades or more. That's the challenge. Only 3 countries have been able to do it. All other countries of the world got caught in the middle income trap. And today there are 108 countries of the world which are caught in the middle income trap. So if India has to do this, what does India need to do? That is the challenge. Now, first and foremost, India is confronted by global challenges. When these countries were growing, global trade was growing. It was expanding. The world was expanding. There was growth taking place. There was free trade. Japan could sell Toyota cars and Honda cars in the United States. China could export to the rest of the world post Kissinger's visit to Beijing. All that has come to an end. There are 3 basic issues we must understand which is happening in today's world. First is that the period of relative stability post-World War II, the period of stability post-World War II from 1945 onwards, which enabled United Nations, Security Council, World Trade Organizations, all these institutions, multilateral institutions to come up, has come to an end. The period of stability has come to an end. You're seeing a war in the heart of Europe for the last 4 years. Over 180,000 people have died there. You're seeing a war in the Middle East where 350,000 people died. So the period of stability has come to an end. Institutions like United Nations, Security Council, World Trade Organization are irrelevant. They become redundant because they did not keep pace with the changing times. They were frozen in times. They became irrelevant. Irrelevant because if India is in the top 4 countries of the world, India is not a member of Security Council, whereas United Kingdom, which is now 7th or 8th, is still there. So these institutions didn't move with time. One of the members of the Security Council is at war for the last 4 years, so the relative period of stability has come to an end. You are seeing wars. The second is that these countries grew on the back of globalization, global value chains, and the ability to export and penetrate global markets at low cost. That period of global value chain expanding and globalization expanding has come to an end. You're seeing protectionism in its worst form. You're seeing tariffs being imposed. You're seeing President Trump imposing 130% tariff on China, negotiating, bringing it down, China putting tariffs on United States, Mexico putting 50% tariff on India yesterday, Trump putting tariff on India 50%. So the period of globalization, global value chains has come to an end. And therefore, you will have to do a lot of bilateral negotiations, you'll have to do regional negotiation, you'll have to build bilateral trade agreements and regional trade agreements. That will be critical. But in the midst of these two disruptions around the world, there is a third thing happening. And that is that we are living in an age, we're sitting at this point of time, at a time when the world will see the biggest rise in productivity and growth ever seen in the world. And that is because of data, machine learning, the rise of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. We are living in an era of the greatest era of prosperity which the world will ever see. What was not physically possible earlier, what was physically not possible will be possible because of the use of AI. It was not possible to improve learning outcomes of our children earlier because it was not possible to take tests around 1 crore, 1.5 crore people. You can do this using artificial intelligence. You can monitor the attendance of teachers. You can do tests every day, give them the results. You can check outcomes. You can improve health outcomes. You can improve learning outcomes. You can change stunting, wasting, nutritional standards across the world. So we are living at a time when technology can be used to transform lives of citizens across the world. If it took India 70 years to transform, we can do this in the next 5 to 6 years using technology. And therefore, using technology in the global south to leapfrog will be critical. So, the world will see these challenges. You're going to see this challenge of disruption in globalization and in the period of stability coming to an end, but it will also see the rise of the biggest era of production and productivity. These, to my mind, are the challenges, and important that India and Indians actually use technology to make a big leap forward. These are the international challenges. India is also confronted by huge domestic challenges, and it's important to confront them. First and foremost, I would say that it's not possible for India to grow only on the back of services. It's not possible. I'm saying this in a state which has done great manufacturing, that India needs to become a manufacturing country. And you have to see that 25% of your GDP comes from manufacturing sector, because you can't have growth without jobs. Manufacturing will be a very big driver of growth, and therefore investment in R&D, investment in design, more patents, commercialization of patents, all this will be critical. We've moved to registering patents from 20,000 to 1 lakh patents, but we don't commercialize them. Our royalty outgo is enormous, but our royalty income is low. And therefore, you need to move into R&D. The government has rightly sanctioned a 1 lakh crore scheme for R&D for the private sector, working in partnership with the private sector. So manufacturing has to be the key for growth creation. What Tamil Nadu is doing, what Karnataka is doing, what Maharashtra is doing, Gujarat is doing, many other states of India has to do. The second is urbanization, good smart urbanization, because India will see 500 million people getting into the process of urbanization. Now 500 million people means the challenge for India in the next 5 decades is to create two Americas. We'll see population of the size of Chicago moving into urban areas every 5 years. If you do not do this, you will see all this encroachment, you'll see poor urbanization, you'll see your city is declining, you'll see the air quality worsening, all this. And therefore you need to do active, smart urbanization, good planning, good roads, good public networks, good green areas, and good planning for urbanization, and create 500 cities of 1 million population each. India's challenge is to create 500 cities of 1 million each. That's the challenge for India of great urbanization, where you can take care of water, of roads, of electricity, smart grids, all this. That's the second big challenge. The third challenge is that India has been growing on the back of 5 or 6 states. You can't do this. You can't be that the southern part of India and the western part of India grows in the eastern part, which is the most populous part of India. The eastern part comprises of 60% of your population. If you do not develop the eastern part of India, UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, all these states, then you'll have huge inequality in the country. And therefore, you need the eastern part of India. You actually need 12 states of India to grow at 10% plus. That's the key challenge. 12 states of India to at least grow at 10% plus to be able to enable India to grow at 9% plus. The fourth is that it's not possible for India to grow without, many of you are from MSMEs. I'm a great believer in MSMEs because they create jobs. I'm a great believer. In India, what happens is that in the MSME sector, 99% are micro enterprises. Micro enterprises do not become small. Small doesn't become medium at all in India. And it doesn't become small because we have too many large companies. The backward-forward integration between large and small doesn't take place. When Maruti came in, it created Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 companies. And therefore, you need many more large companies in India. We have very few large companies. India needs to create 10,000 large companies in India. Big, large companies which will then do backward integration with other suppliers, Tier 2, Tier 3 suppliers, so that the MSME ecosystem is created and the MSME sector grows enormously and the micro sector then becomes small and the small becomes bigger and there is a flow of liquid. A lot has been done for MSME in terms of first loss guarantees, etc. But you can't do this unless and until you have large companies, and that's critical for India, to my mind. And the fifth point is that it's important for India that it will not be possible for India to do this without hugely improving its human development index, its physical quality of life index. No country in the world, whether it was Korea, China, Japan, has been able to grow without improving learning outcomes, health outcomes, nutritional standards, and unless you don't transform, this is the key to long-term sustained growth. You can't grow on the back of a stunted population of wasted children, stunted children. You need to improve learning outcomes because almost 45% of your children studying in class 8 are not able to follow class 2 maths, class 2 physics, or class 2 English. Even in their mother tongues, they are not able to do this. So learning outcomes have to radically improve, health outcomes have to improve, and the human development index has to improve radically. This, to my mind, these are the critical things on the domestic front. Now, I've given you what has been the transformation of India. I've given you what the global challenges are. I've told you what the domestic challenges for India are. And that India can't afford to grow on the back of 5 states. You need 12 states to grow at 10% plus. And it's very critical that the eastern part of India grows. But having said all this, the challenges, the global challenges, the domestic challenges, I strongly believe, and that this can be India's decade and this can be India's century. This can be India's decade and this can be India's century because India's demographics are very good. I mean, our average age is 29. Even when we become 120, 47, our average age will be 35. Rarely in the history of the world has a country not created wealth when it has low dependency burdens. And therefore, there's a huge opportunity to use the demographics of India to grow rapidly, and the young population of India, if it is well-skilled, will enable India to grow rapidly, and therefore, demographics are very favorable to India. The second key thing is that we must understand that India is the only country in the world which is today doing 30 kilometers of roads and 12 kilometers of railway line every day. No other country in the world is doing 30 kilometers of road and 12 kilometers of line. India is the only country in the world which is today actually doing 9 metros a year. 9 metros a year. No other country in the world is doing 9 metros a year. India is the only country in the world which has increased its solar energy 31x in the last 7 years. India is the only country in the world which does 50% of its payments through fast payments on the mobile. China is next with 20%. So demographics, infrastructure creation, use of technology to leapfrog all exist in India. No other country in the world has this ability to do this. But the world of geopolitics we must understand. And that is that United States of America is the only country which controls 28% of the global GDP. It controls 48% of the market cap with just 4% of the population. The United States has maintained its share for the last 3 decades. It's a highly innovative society because of a lot of H-1B visa going there. Only because of the H-1B visas. The Europe share, which used to be 30%, has come down to less than 15%. Europe share has come down from 30% to 15%. China's share is going up. China's share is close to about 19%. So the quest in geopolitics is America realizes that on cutting edge technology, China is getting closer and closer to the United States of America, and the United States, to retain its leadership, must control China. And this quest for protectionism, this quest for saying that we'll not give you technology, or the quest for deep negotiations is all happening. The breakdown of supply chain is happening because of the United States realization that the global order in the last 3 decades has worked to its disadvantage, its huge disadvantage. And therefore the developed world will always work to its own advantage and not to your advantage. And it's important for India to use its size and scale to do cutting-edge transformation, to use its political will to transform India. And in my view, it is the only country in the world which has today, because of its demographics and the large number of reforms that have been introduced, the structural reforms, the digitization, the infrastructure that has been created, it will have a huge multiplier effect in the coming years. And it's very, very important. I'm a great believer in free enterprise. My belief is that only the private sector can make India grow. Government can only be a catalyst, but the private sector of India must generate wealth, and it is for people like you sitting in this room to really drive India's growth and prosperity, create jobs, and take India from $4 trillion to a $30 trillion country. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. What an inspiring lecture, sir. Really spellbound. And we'll take some questions. Is it okay? Yeah. Mentimeter? So over 1,040 people are watching it online. I already got quite a number of questions. We'll put it on the screen. Meanwhile,
no, I think first of all, I want to thank Mr. Kant for an amazing exposition of what lies ahead, what is behind us, what's in front of us. I think and I also enjoy the energy that it demonstrated when he spoke. I think, I always complain to my son, he speaks very fast. And I always have problem listening to him when he speaks. But this gentleman spoke so fast, but every word was actually clear and separated. The speed is not the problem, it's how the birds gets rolled in is a problem. And I realized that the speed with which he delivered the speech was not an handicap for anybody to listen to what he was saying. So thank you very much, sir. I think before the question comes up, we're talking about the next few years, 22 years from now, you want to become 30+ trillion economy. What are the risks that we need to be worried about in the journey to 2047?
There are many risks, and I elucidated on some of them. One which is, the lack of political will to do good, smart urbanization, because you can end up with very poor, polluting cities, which is increasingly will become a burden for the citizens. I elucidated to the fact that what you're seeing today is a huge disruption in technology. If AI is going to be the biggest source of transformation, look at the size and scale of transformation. Our AI mission is talking about 30,000 NVIDIA GPUs. OpenAI alone signed a deal with NVIDIA for 11 gigawatts, which is 5 million latest computing powers, Blackwell. 5 million. That's the size and scale of transformation happening in the world. So you need to disrupt. What China is doing is it's copying our model of digital public infrastructure and doing open source disruption in AI. So we'll have to do more and more of open source, disrupt everything what the United States is doing, but you'll have to build large language models so that, otherwise what will happen is tomorrow you will ask, look at what is happening in India. Airtel has tied up with Perplexity, Jio has tied up with Gemini, AICTE has said that you can get onto ChatGPT. 5,000 universities of India will get tied up with, have free access to ChatGPT. It's not free access. They're saying free access, but all your data is going to ChatGPT, it's going to Perplexity, it's going to Gemini, and they will then develop AI products and sell them to you at huge costs and huge prices. This will be neo-colonization in another form. We must understand that this is new colonization in another form, and therefore, the earlier we develop our own large language models, and then once we've developed them, ask Indians to use those large language models, because the data will make it better and better and better. Otherwise, we'll all be colonized for the next 100 years. These are the risks, these are the challenges. If we keep persisting with outdated technology, fossil fuel cars, I'm glad that Mahindra is making EV vehicles in Tamil Nadu. Now Tata's is making EV vehicles. You have to disrupt the existing model and get onto technology which will enable you to leapfrog. If you do not do that, and I'm particularly glad that TVS here has taken the lead in electric vehicle scooters, and and one IIT student who started, IIT Chennai student who started Ather actually, from the research park here, has actually done a lot of disruption. So these are companies which are doing disruption. You need to accelerate the pace of that disruption. And the government, we must understand, is always behind regulation. In regulation, it is behind innovation. So government also's regulations have to be ahead of innovation. That's important, that we should force the industry to move ahead on innovation. That's critical, and that's important. And so these are the key risks to my mind. The third key risk is that inequitable growth, that some part of India are growing, other parts of India are not growing. Actually, to my mind, the eastern part of India needs to grow at rates of, because they have a low base, they need to grow at 11-12% for the next 3 decades. That has to be the key focus. It'll be very difficult for Karnataka and Tamil Nadu to keep growing at 11, because you're already 6 feet high. You're 6 feet high, you can't become 7 and 8 feet. But for them, somebody who is already 3 feet, for him to reach 6.5 feet is easier. So it's the eastern part of India, because it's the most populous part of India, is very important, very critical. That's
very well said. Now, the manufacturing sector has been a laggard in terms of our growth. If you look at our structure in India, economy of India, manufacturing contributes actually year after year less and less. And you said it's going to grow 16 times to get to the number that you want. Is it achievable?
It's very much doable. The policy on Apple has demonstrated that you can, Apple is today producing about 22-23% of its total production from India. A lot of that from Tamil Nadu and Andhra. If Apple can do it, why should we not be able to attract Dell, Cisco, everyone else? That should be the next step for that. And it's very much doable. Why not? I mean, India doesn't lack skilled manpower. India doesn't lack. America is not going to have women doing 24/7 manufacturing of mobiles, even if Trump wants it. And even if he forces women of America to do mobile manufacturing on assembly line, the cost of the mobile phone will be $150 more. So it's not feasible. But it's very much doable in India. So without that, it will be very impossible to grow with jobs. Impossible. That's the key. But for that, industry also needs to put a lot of resources into R&D, innovation. That's critical. Indian R&D, Indian industry has been a laggard in R&D. Huge laggard.
While I have inhibitions about what you said, let me not get into debate. We'll have private debate on that.
That is because you are an advertising man.
That's true. I want to get. We have actually about close to 2,000 people listening to you online.
Okay. So, well, first of all, India on reforms, I think India must become very easy, very simple. We should scrap a lot of more rules, regulation, procedures, paperwork that we do in India. Our regulators tend to over-regulate at times. We do not allow private sector to grow rapidly. So my view is very strong on ease of doing business. That's very, very critical that we should scrap almost 85% of our rules and regulations to enable India to grow. India is highly overregulated. Number two, this reform process has to be pushed in the states. The reform center is done, but the next set of reforms has to happen in the states. That's critical to my mind. Very, very important. And the third, as I said, is very important, that we improve states' focus on, and that's totally the job of the states. States focus on improving learning outcomes, health outcomes, nutrition. That's very critical. Those are key things for India. It will not be able to sustain the growth levels of what you are talking without that. And without that, you won't be able to do skilling. You can't, you need skilled manpower. 30% of the world's skilled manpower will be provided by India by 2047. All the skilled hoteliers, all general managers who used to come from Switzerland will all be coming from India. So you need skilled manpower. 30% of the skilled manpower. No other country will have the population to provide skilled manpower. They'll have no people. All the people will come from India. You'll be running UK, you'll be running Italy, you'll be running France, you'll be running Germany. Yeah, I'm telling you. You're laughing, but you mark my word. By 2047, you'll be running all these places. I'm saying this because Rishi Sunak already has been the Prime Minister of England. So all these countries will have Indian Prime Ministers, only if you produce skilled. Oh. But for that, you need skilled manpower. Yeah.
Okay, I want to take the next question from
all
audience.
You guys should aim to produce children who will start managing these countries. And all of you are not old enough, you can still produce. Technology enables you to do that.
Ramesh, you want a question?
I joined journalism in 1988, so I've had good fortune to chronicle India's progress. Transformative phase. So my chest swells with pride when I see what we have achieved. However, there is one very disappointing feature in what we have done or what we have not done, which is the state of our city, the lack of cleanliness, lack of neatness. We all travel abroad, we see how beautiful the cities are. Sir, Chennai has 3 rivers. If anybody in this hall dares to take a dip in any of these rivers and lives for 1 year, he can have my entire P of money. The traffic is chaotic. We have cows and bullocks sitting in the middle of Mount Road here. Has this engaged the attention of Niti Aayog? I know there is Swachh Bharat mission is there. I understand that. Beyond that, why can't we keep our cities clean? Such a simple thing to do.
For this, it's citizens like you and me who are responsible. We don't do segregation of waste at our house. We dump garbage outside. We create filth everywhere. and then we start blaming him. Municipal governance is a function of what the citizens do and what they demand from their municipality. We don't do as citizens, you exercise your responsibility. If the whole of Chennai the citizens of Chennai create a movement, you will force the municipality to act. So firstly, the citizens, secondly, municipal governance. If Indore can do it, Indore does house-to-house segregation, there's a sense of pride. If Surat can do it, if Mysore can do it, why shouldn't Chennai do it? You go to Indore, not one peck of dust or garbage or paper, filth anywhere. You go to Surat, Surat used to be the filthiest city. If it can be transformed into the second best city, if Mysore can be done, if Vizag can do it, why can't you do it? Chennai? Because of the citizens being lazy. Don't blame government for everything. No, as business line chief, you start a bloody movement in the city of Chennai to make it the cleanest city like Indore. That's the responsibility we owe to us. You know, people in Delhi talk about this. People of Delhi are responsible for all the garbage, the filth, the bad air quality because they don't take ownership. And the worst of the lot are people who live in urban areas. And they're self-centered, they care only for themselves, nothing for others.
Hema Hari wants to ask a question.
Namaste, I am Hema Hari. You explained so lucidly the entire chain of flow, the cause, effect, and the analysis was so good in such a short time. The one thing which I felt can make all this also possible is a shared vision across the entire country. And how are we going to take such messages which are predominantly now confined to conclaves? We are now talking that we need to create these kind of opportunities. Yes, these kind of conclaves will create the opportunities, but to fill those opportunities, those skilled manpower, they have to be charged with the same vision that you are explaining. And unless that happens in the lingo that they can understand and can reach the rural tier 1, tier 2 areas, this shared vision, I mean, people should be living and breathing this. So how can we do that is my question.
Madam, Mr. Swamy asked me to speak to you people. He didn't ask me to transform India. I mean, expecting me to transform the whole of India, very difficult. I can motivate and inspire some people, but not the whole of India.
Last row, give the point to last Ravi.
Well, my name is Srinivasan Kasturi. I have one doubt about it. It's very interesting to know every point of yours to go into record or something. But one thing is missing. What happened to the linking of rivers, which the government of India has not been taking into account? They had been talking about bullet train, this, that, and everything. Yes, everything is acceptable. That facilitates only a fraction of the people that may immediately push your GDP. But what happened to the linking of rivers, which is a nerve system of the agricultural system? When I was a boy with 15 years, 14 years, when I go to a cinema theater, the news review will go for just 10-15 minutes. It will show Biharil Vellam, அடுத்த slide, Rajasthanil Varachi. The same situation is happening even today. One part of the country is flooded with water and there is heavy damages to the properties. So many people has been killed, landslides, this and that and other thing. The other section of the country, we see there is absolutely, look, even in Tamil Nadu itself, even one small state cannot able to control the rivers. What else? Why the government cannot able to focus on this vital infrastructure which may not be immediately boost your GDP, but in the slow run, it can go. Thanks. If I am wrong, I apologize. Thank you.
No, for linking of rivers, it's an important question. But for linking of rivers, Madras Management Association should invite me for another lecture. It's a great subject of debate and discussion, but I would suggest that all of us should start with preservation, conservation, recycling of water, recycling of waste. If you recycle your water and save your rainwater conservation, Singapore was to end its treaty with Malaysia in 50s. It did not have any drop of water. It did not link its rivers. Today, every water is recycled. It's used as human water. Your excreta water is used as human water for consumption because Singapore had a challenge. It had a scarcity challenge. Chennai has a massive scarcity problem. I think the challenge for you is to recycle every drop of rainwater, every dual piping system, everything. That is what you people should push for. Linking of river is a long-term project which will require another subject of discussion.
Thank you. Last question from the gentleman there. You wanted to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, you're doing last twice.
Last question.
You're asking more questions than UPSC asked me in my exam.
You're going to make the last question.
My name is Rajvi. In your article, you have mentioned recently that India has to monetize the infrastructure investment trust, and 3 trillion is a worldwide thing, and Germany, Japan are leading. Today, government is thinking of NHA to monetize the assets. These are the things where we need to pass on the knowledge to people. And
very important question.
Another lady who has asked, how do we do it? Each one of us, we have our servants, we have our employees who are entering the job from cities down the line. We all can share these knowledges. We need not be politically aligned. We can share this, that unless every Indian puts in, we are not going to reach that 30 plus trillion. Even if we reach, we won't be stable. So culture has to build up. And every one of us have to drive the change in culture.
Absolutely. So very important statement and very important question. So I'd written about this, and actually when I was CEO Niti Aayog, I started this asset monetization pipeline. My aim was that the Prime Minister had approved it, the Finance Minister had pushed for it. The intention was that, government sits on a lot of assets because all assets are created by government. Roads are created, expressways are created, warehouses are created, power grids are created, all created by government. But in India, the productivity and efficiency levels are low because government is very poor at operation and maintenance. It can create, but its operations are very poor. Its toll collections, there'll be leakages. And therefore, I had said that all these assets which government has should be monetized by doing InvITs, by doing REITs, by putting them out into private domain so that we have better operation and maintenance. Government is not selling them, but government is doing InvITs and REITs for 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, all of that. I mean, government running a Ashoka hotel in Delhi, it makes no sense to me. Why should the government run hotel now? So government should do asset monetization. You should have Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton or Shangri, somebody else running it. So why I feel that all these warehouses work to very low efficiency. Roads can be better managed, operated. Expressways can be better operated. Power grids can be better operated. If India has done airports earlier, through private sector, we should do railway stations. That's my belief. Many other areas we should get in private. Long-term growth of India, sustainable growth of 9 to 10% will not happen without the private sector being the key driver. It can't happen with government. Like renewable energy, it happened. Government just pushed for the policy change, but private sector came in. Because the private sector came in, it was able to attract private equity, venture funds, many other things. So technology comes in through the private sector then. That's what happened. And therefore, my belief is that asset monetization is very, very critical. Thank you. So I'm really thankful to the Management Association here. One more question.
It is told that in America it is about 30 to 38 trillion dollars natural resources availability. In China it is 30 trillion dollars. But at the same time we are lacking and having only a meager amount of less than $4 trillion. In such a conditions, in the lesser availability of the natural resources, how can we achieve that much amount of $30 trillion ideas?
No. There's no shortage of. Let me assure you. Let me assure you that there is no shortage of natural resources in this country. You look at the deserts of Rajasthan, that can be the biggest area for renewable energy. That's the highest plant load factor you can get on efficiency. There's no shortage of. You know how much water is getting into our agriculture sector? 89.8% of India's water is going to agriculture sector, which is not recycled, which is not because you are giving free power. We have to make ourselves more efficient. We have to raise our productivity levels. There's no shortage. Don't be under this illusion. India is full of natural resources. Full of natural resources, and this Management Association of Madras must absolutely clear your mind that India is the richest in terms of natural resources. Thank you very much. My thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. He's transformed Niti Aayog and G20 Sherpa, and one of the finest leaders India has got. I think he deserves a standing ovation from the best management in India. Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Kant. It's a pleasure. Now I request Mr. Swamy to step forward along with Lakshmi to present a memento on behalf of MMA, sir. Please. Mr. Suraj Salim is the president of Ad Club Madras and co-founder of Digital Inspired Media to deliver the vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Captain. Right, what an energetic evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly an honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the Advertising Club Madras and MMA on this special occasion, the 7th R.K. Swamy Memorial Lecture. Today, we haven't just attended a lecture, we've collectively revisited a legacy reflected on the road ahead for our nation and celebrated a man whose imprint on Indian advertising remains indelible. First, my heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speaker, Shri Amitabh Kant, for an insightful, forward-looking and deeply energizing lecture on the road to a $30 trillion economy by 2047. Your clarity on reform, your optimism for India, and your ability to make complex policy feel personal and actionable, that's a gift. Your words remind us that nation building is not a spectator sport. Each of us has a role to play. My sincere gratitude to Mr. Lakshminarayan D, President of MMA, for the warm welcome and for hosting us with such grace. MMA has always been a partner that elevates conversations, and tonight was no exception. To Mr. Swamy, thank you for your thoughtful introductory remarks. For all of us in the advertising fraternity, your presence adds a personal poignancy to this event. Every year, this lecture becomes a moment of both reflection and renewal. And that feeling truly begins with your words. A special thanks to Mr. Srinivasan K. Swamy for steering the Q&A with your trademark clarity, depth, and gentle wit. As always, you draw the questions that matter most, and the audience is richer for it. A moment for the man whose name anchors today, Sri R.K. Swamy. When we talk about pillars of Indian advertising, his name stands tall, not because he chased greatness, but because greatness followed the integrity with which he lived and worked. The notes in today's memorial invite remind us of the extraordinary arc of his life. A young translator at JWT in the 1940s, navigating languages but really translating ideas. A visionary who built the Chennai branch into a full-service agency in 1955. A pioneer who convinced public sector organizations to trust advertising and in doing so expanded the very definition of our industry. A man whose unwavering ethics became a benchmark that many of us still measure ourselves against. And of course, the founder of an enterprise that remains one of India's most respected integrated marketing groups. For the Advertising Club Madras, he wasn't just an icon, he was a compass. His belief that Madras could and should be on the nation's advertising map is why platforms like ours exist and thrive today. We are humbled to continue honoring him through this memorial lecture, a tradition that keeps bringing sharper minds, bigger ideas, and deeper purpose into our community. My thanks to the organizing committee of MMA for the flawless execution of this evening, all dignitaries, industry leaders, students, and members of the Advertising Club Madras and MMA for joining us and making this gathering meaningful. The teams working behind the scenes, sound, stage, registration, who make events like this look effortlessly smooth. And finally, to every attendee here and everyone watching online, thank you for showing up, for caring, and for believing in the power of ideas to shape tomorrow. As president of the Advertising Club Madras, I carry forward a simple belief that aligns beautifully with Sri R.K. Swamy's life. When principle leads and passion follows, progress becomes inevitable. Thank you all once again for being part of this evening.
Thank you, Suri. Thank you once again for joining us in big number. Indeed, a privilege to host you this evening. And thank you. Bye-bye. Good night till we meet again.